Audio. All right. Hello, everybody. If anyone's actually here, this is going to be really, really short, both because I'm really tired, but also because nothing really happened. Just to make sure synced, that's all together. And bring up, yes, that is the correct one. Oh, I should have done that beforehand, because now I have to do all this. And it's going to slow the thing down. Shut off all that, shut off all that. Okay, that should be fine. So while we're waiting, which I won't wait too long, excuse me, open the folder I tell you to open. But while we're waiting, those of you who happen to be here early or who actually watched the whole thing, I'm just going to let you guys see this. This is the neighbor's cat, Milo. Hopefully you actually are seeing the video. It'll be really awkward if for some reason OBS rejects it, but this is Milo, the neighbor's cat. We pulled into the driveway the other day and he just hopped into the car and he was just walking around back and forth. Excuse me. I said mute the video. Fine. So he was walking back and forth across both our labs. Then he went into the back seat. Then he went back into the front seat and he was looking out the window. He was up on the dashboard. He was everywhere. Look at Milo. Curious, adventurous Milo. Here he comes again, onto my lap now. He has himself a look out the window. He gets up on the dashboard. And back into the back seat again. Milo is such a curious, adventurous little baby. Where's the thing? Oh, I have to minimize it first. There we go. Oh, there we go. Now we have people. Let's see. Yeah, kind of off hours, so I wasn't really expecting anybody to show up for this one. Nothing's really gone anywhere anyways. Uh, both both denials, both blocks in terms of the strait are still in place. However, the new meeting is taking place tomorrow or Saturday. Technically, it's already Saturday in Pakistan, but the U.S. and Iran are both denying that they're negotiating again because both are trying to play the strongman position. But the negotiators from both sides uh, are going to Pakistan, or it's a short flight from Iran, so the Iranian ones already arrived. But the U.S. and Iran are insisting that the guys they sent are just going there for, I'll put quotation marks, but I'm not willing to put in the energy to actually draw out the word. So make the quotation marks bigger. They're just going there for UB, for unrelated business. Both, U.S. and Iranian negotiation teams just so happen to be going to the same place at the same time on unrelated business. So both don't are denying that they're actually talking because neither of them wants to look weak. But the U.S. and the entire rest of the world kind of need things to resume flowing, and Iran kind of needs the blockade to stop soon because otherwise their depots, their storage containers will eventually fill up and they'll have to forcibly shut down a lot of their oil production, which will be damaging to the fields, especially to really long-standing aged fields. So they want to avoid that. They have a few weeks they could go for, because they're not shredded. Like they don't have the degree of utterly like decimated levels of storage capacity that Russia has after like 2 years of nonstop Ukrainian drone strikes now. So Iran still has a lot of its storage capacity intact, but a lot of that storage capacity also was already partially full and is getting filled quicker than it would otherwise be if it was just for the blockade. Because as I showed on the graphs and in the oil demand levels video that I finally put up last night, their consumption levels domestically are, because of the war, reduced compared to what they would be, but they've come back up a little bit during the ceasefire, but they're still quite a ways down from where they would normally be. So that's more oil going into the storage depots than it otherwise would be, since that additional oil also cannot exit because of the blockade. So neither can actually keep this up for long, but neither wants to even be seen talking to each other, let alone be seen like conceding or acquiescing. Neither side wants to actually be seen talking to the other publicly, but it is happening. Uh, they're they're already there waiting, and the U.S. guys are on their way. But again, not totally fake news. Apparently, they're both teams just happen to be going to Pakistan on the same day at the same time, to the same city, to the same hotel on the same day at the same time for completely unrelated reasons. So, totally not actually happening, but it is obviously happening. Let's see, did we get anybody else? Not anybody else who's alive. Oh, we got up to 5, and then we're going down. Probably showed up, saw that I was showing the video with Milo, and then everybody dipped. IDF is holding on its agreements to stop carpet bombing Beirut. Ground combat, however, ground combat is still ongoing in southern Lebanon between the IDF and Hezbollah. That's not stopping. But the airstrikes and the destroying destroying apartment building stuff has continued to be held off for the time being. It's now been a full week of such. And supposedly the IDF agreed to continue not leveling Beirut for another 3 weeks now. But we'll see whether that actually holds up. Let's see, what else was there? Oh, some additional good news. The amount that can exit Iraq through the Syrian pipeline is more than initially thought. Not too much, though. It's actually about 160,000 barrels per day. It initially looked like it was going to cap out at 120. So, depending on the size of tanker, that's like a tanker being able to be loaded and leave every 8 days, or every 16 days or so, or sorry, every 8 or every 14 days. It depends. No, 7 or 14, sorry. And the current situation has, suddenly erased the disagreements between Iraq and Turkey because despite both of them having their issues, neither of them, would benefit from the collapse of the global economy. So the Iraqi-Turkish pipeline is now at full capacity, which was more than I'd initially thought. I thought it capped out at 250, but 250 is just the maximum they had been using it for up to that point before all this started. Now, this one is pumping out 600,000 barrels a day out to a port over here. Some of it then gets over here and refined and stuff and used within Turkey, but Turkey also gets portions of its oil from Azerbaijan and Russia. So a lot of that 600K from Iraq is actually leaving on tankers to go elsewhere. And that might be it. This might be one of the shortest ones yet, just because of the sheer degree of nothing. Unless I forgot something, which I'm trying to run through my head right now. I don't think I did, but I can't get rid of the sinking suspicion. While I wait to see if anything comes to mind, over here in the US, there is additional good news for nature, for the environment, overcoming the follies of man. So, down here in various portions of the southern and southeastern US, there is a invasive species called fire ants. For those who are unaware, they're little red ants originally from South America. They're invasive and they are not just aggressive, they are hyper aggressive. Uh, Coming from the particular environment of competition that they dealt with in their native habitat, that makes sense. But they decimated the regional indigenous ant populations in the south and southeastern portions of the US to where it's been environmentally detrimental. And unlike Australia, the US never committed to an actual fully funded, like well run and well researched eradication attempt. It would be difficult anyways, but Australia have the same issue, and Australia actually managed to wipe them out mostly. They reappear now and then, but they do keep managing to push them to the brink of near beneficial extinction in Australia as they're invasive. But we do have, I draw the big exclamation point here, some good news for indigenous species adaptation. So, I had already noticed myself over the few years since I entered my exile down here. As those who are unaware, if anybody new is watching, I'm from Fairbanks, Alaska. That's my actual home. I'd love to go back, but 2020 happened and destroyed my life. So I no longer have my old livable income. And it's not like I had a lot of money sitting around that I could have just coasted off of. So I was forced into exile down in my parents' place, down close to Charleston, South Carolina, where I spent my high school years. And so I came back to miserable heats, rednecks throwing their garbage everywhere, and fire ants as the only living thing to be seen outside. However, I started noticing, uh, starting around, I think 2022 was the first year that I started noticing. I started seeing some of the actual like native ant species again. I started seeing the orange carpenter ants. I started seeing the regular ants, the ones with a black head, black thorax, and grayish beige abdomen. The ones that I saw all the time back on Cape Cod back when I was a kid. I started seeing the little tiny ants. I think they're called like sugar ants or something. And there's one other species. I forgot what it is, but I started seeing all these other species again. The fire ants are still here. I'm constantly having to poison them, but I started actually seeing other species again, and I ended up finding out and reading up on why. The native ant species of North America, at least in the southeastern region where the fire ants have been able to spread, have actually, after 7 or 8 decades, abruptly developed adaptations against them. So, fire ants, whenever they sense something's wrong, if there's not enough food nearby because they've hyper aggressively killed everything and scared everything off, if there's flooding, this is the fire ant mound. If they are burrowing down and digging their mound and running into the clay layer that's like only a foot or two underneath the soil in this area. If they find out there's not enough room to like dig down, for all sorts of reasons, the colony will move and get up and start to migrate. And through your yard, across a street, everything, you'll see like the migration line. They don't form big, like 2 foot wide conga lines like driver ants or army ants do in Africa and South America. There's not that many fire ants in a colony, anyways. It's only like 2 ants wide at most, usually, but you can see them on their trail and they'll be carrying the larva, carrying the queen, etc. So the native species of ants here have developed fire ant specific, like fire ant directed aggression, and have developed something that would technically be a defect if it were not for the fire ants. They have, because all ants release signaling pheromones and stuff. So so the native species ants have apparently developed, this was only recently discovered now, they've developed the ability that again would technically be a defect if not for the circumstances to pick up on and identify as if it was their own each other's, the different species attack signals. And so the species have developed, firstly, the aggression and the like strategy that while the fire ants are doing a migration, they, one group will like see the migration, sound off a pheromone alarm, and draw some pheromone particles coming through the air, set off a pheromone alarm, and they'll find the queen. Draw a Q here. That's a really bad Q, but anyways, here I'll put a crown on the Q so you know it's the queen. They'll find where the queen is. They will rush that spot because they can't take the fire ants in an actual evenly evenly matched standing number for number. So they will rush that one spot specifically, and other, however small or large, colonies of the native ant species nearby will actually receive and understand that attack pheromone from the other different species or different colony, and they'll respond to it. And so the different colonies of sometimes the same species or different colonies of different species of the native indigenous ant species here will team up and will ambush migrating fire ant lines and just, gang jump the queen, murk the queen, decapitate her, and then peace out. And the fire ants, once they no longer, it's not literal commands or directives or mind control, but without the different environmental signals coming from the queen, the colony goes into colony collapse. And if you ever poison a fire ant hill, and the queen is dead, you will sometimes see this. When she's dead, the regular fire ants, if there's any survivors that didn't get poisoned, in referring to the case of poisoning them, you might have seen them like standing outside or on top of the mound and just like barely moving. Like sometimes they'll take a few steps and they'll just like stand there stagnantly existing, staring off into empty space. That's what happens when the queen dies, and so that's what happens in this case too. So the native species get away with ambushing the fire ants with, because they're doing it while they're in a thin migration line, minimal combat and thus minimal losses to themselves. They just rush in, signal each other, murk the queen, and then peace out. And then boom, the fire ant colony collapses because the queen is dead. So that is one of the best bits of environmental or naturalist news that I've heard in quite some time. Because I was starting to wonder why I was seeing, and happily so, seeing like so many of the actual regular ant species I'm way more used to starting to actually be visible again. And apparently it's because they've collectively developed the adaptation of one, getting more aggressive and ambushing migrating fire ant lines, and B, technically a defect, but smelling each other's attack pheromones and responding to them in a tag team so that multiple colonies of non-fire ants will ambush the migrating train of fire ants and murk the queen and then peace out. Okay, I'm going to warn you once, like I have to many other people, don't do this. Don't dominate post infinite paragraphs talking to effectively yourself. Uh, more. I thought North Carolina was the farthest they could manage. Are they in Virginia? I know they're in parts of North Carolina, Tennessee, and Arkansas. I thought they only got a little bit further north in like Missouri. But it was back during the early 40s they came over, as when we were trying to bum rush as much steel as we could to build all the war stuff. We were importing like so much manganese, and it was, back in the second or the first half of the 20th century, so there wasn't a lot of like inspection stuff that happened back then. And also we just wanted it as fast as possible. And manganese ore is usually basically right at the surface. And so, fire ants, like other ants, are only go a few feet down. So during some of that digging, some of that basically at the surface manganese ore probably had a few fire ant colonies in it and came up on one of the ore carriers, and we've been screwed ever since until now. Until now, the where'd my water go? There it is. Now, the native ant species have learned the art of rapid decapitation and tag team gang beatdowns. Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't even know if the ant eaters in South America eat fire ants. I know they eat army ants and driver ants, but I don't know if even they touch the fire ants. Ugh. But I'm not doxxed, dude. I've I think I've even technically showed my parents' house before. When we were like over a year ago when I was doing a stream looking through like all the photography I've done. But yeah, now that I'm in exile around here. Technically, I'm more like, hold on, how zoomed in does it? Oh man, it starts to get blurry. Well, yeah, that's because this isn't Google Earth. This is the NOAA bathymetry site. This is for showing like extensive detail of what the ocean floor actually looks like as opposed to land details. So yeah, it gets oh yeah, even that zoomed in already starts to get badly like blurry for your eyes on land. Yeah, no, I'm stranded around like here-ish somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, I feel like I'm still forgetting something. I don't have a phone that can do that. Part of the reason why I'm able to still survive paying enough of my own expenses, like just enough of a threshold to where my dad like lets me get away with staying here, is the same reason why I was able to live on my own back up home in Alaska, off of a total life expenses of only like 8 to 9 grand a year. I made usually between like 11 and 13, which is how I was able to travel to visit Baltimore every year and occasionally San Francisco. But like part of that is I've mastered being very cheap without decimating quality of life by my standards of it. And one aspect of that is I don't have a actual smartphone. I have a phone that has a touchscreen instead of buttons, but it is not a smartphone. What am I forgetting? What am I forgetting? I cannot remember what I forgot. Suspended. Oh, the watercolor. Yeah, I've been around in the Caribbean before. That was back in the old times. I think all the Caribbean stuff should be in this photography folder. Uh, yeah, this was the Bahamas. So this is what at least in the specific part we were at. This is what the water looked like in the Bahamas. It was mixtures of teal, cyan, all different kinds, while also being very transparent. That's a lot of hot air balloon shots. That's broader ship and water shots. There you go. Here's some more. Some weathered sandstone rocks. Technically, the same type of rocks that oil reservoirs occur in, just, a few thousand feet underground. There was some of the sky. There's some sparklies I got on the waves. There's the sand, the sand waves that the water motion causes on the actual floor there, up to a few like 100 feet out from the shore, especially in the Bahamas because everything's really, really shallow. I think I was able to get some close-up macros of the sand even through the water. Yeah, starting to get closer. Where's the closer-up stuff? Oh, that one's nice though. Okay, yeah, there's close-ups of the actual sand particles and stuff I managed to get even through the water. I was not sticking my camera under the water. I don't have that type of camera. All I'm operating is a Sony SX540, or no, sorry, a Canon SX540. My older stuff, like these shots, were taken with my dad's old Sony something. But yeah, even with that, even through the water without sticking the camera under the water, I was able to get some of these. Like, oh yeah, there we go. I was able to get individual particles of silica. There's some even better ones. And there's some more watercolor. You can see the transition from the different colors and stages as it gets farther out, as it gets deeper. That general one there is just one of my favorite shots. Let's see. Up there's some more. There's some more color palette. This is still the Bahamas. This isn't somewhere else. I do have shots from Saint Martin, but I'm not gonna go over all those because I don't want to keep going for too long. But you guys triggered this because you mentioned it. There's more Bahamas watercolor, and there's the type of sun reflection I was hunting for, where it gets to the point where the water starts to look kind of, in the photograph, it starts to look kind of solid, like it's some crinkly metal surface of foil. And here, it doesn't look like it's foil necessarily, but it does look like it's some kind of like crystallized solid. But this is some of the water. me see if there's any other color ones. Oh, yeah, then there was this water out by the this was actually out on the pier by the ship before we got back on. Any others? Okay, got these. You can see like striations of different color patterns here too. I think this was from the ship, of the water around the ship before we left. Yeah, I won't go too far into that because then I'd end up taking up a lot of time. And I need time to actually continue resuming writing for episode 5, like I keep saying I'm going to do. But I only managed like one one paragraph of descriptor or action lines, or like 2 lines of dialogue each night. So I need to get back on it. Yeah, that's the intended plan on top of the threat reduction by induced unlivability to cause continuing birth rate decline and continuing outbound migration of the population of their surrounding states, with the exception of Jordan. But for a while, they didn't actually have to do anything in or to Syria themselves because Syria was doing that to itself. But now that Syria has stabilized and reunited, it's almost guaranteed they're going to they're going to start doing stuff soon. And as for, I don't know, the potential outcomes of the talking that's happening tomorrow, uh, yeah, I'd feel like probably if results come, they won't be framed as results. It'll kind of just be each side saying that they're going to end their respective blockades, not as part of a negotiation, but they're going to do it as a humanitarian gesture or as an act of good faith for the sake of uh, the other dependent nations around the world who need the resources to actually leave the Persian Gulf and use it, especially for their own domestic audience, as a framing to make it look like each one of them is the more humane of the two, when in reality it will technically be part of the actual pro prelude to broader agreement, because ending the stoppage is that the other side is causing is part of each side's like necessary prerequisites to be willing to talk, to be willing to talk in the first place. All right, it's already 9:30 Eastern time, so I'm going to have to call it here. So thanks everybody who showed up, but I'm going to be dropping off now. I'll wait like 30 seconds because that's how long the delay is before everybody hears or says what I'm actually saying. So if anything else specific comes up or there's any super chats or anything, I'll deal with or respond to those, but otherwise I'm tipping off here. It wasn't supposed to be a stream about fire ants. I just took way longer to describe what is going on than I should have. I should have been able to lay that out in like 2 minutes, but it ended up taking me 10. All right. I will see you guys around on probably Tuesday, unless that's the day that Josh needs me to help go clean his brother's house because his brother does not do such a thing. And so somebody has to clean his brother's house when once his brother gets deployed to some unspoken location in the Middle East. But we don't know when that's coming. We just know that he's only going to get a 1 hour notice to show up, get on the C-17, and go. So whatever day that is, Josh is going to need me to go spend a few hours cleaning his brother's house. So if that day ends up being Tuesday, I'll be way too tired to do the normal Tuesday stream. But otherwise, it should be Tuesday like usual.